Welcome to another week of progress on the foundation. My original intention for this week was to finish up events. However, as I started going that way, I realized that several concepts that I had been ignoring were actually required for resolving events, and so I had to spend a lot of time on back-end code getting some things in place, such as getting the game to recognize the existence of bases and where they are and the information related to bases. And I also had to rehaul the simulation time, the clock that you see at the bottom of the screen. However, I'm much happier with how the clock is now, even though it took a bit of time to figure out how to redo the way it considered time. So before, when I clicked the fast time, you may have noticed that it was updating in chunks of 6 hours at a time. Well, now if I click the fast time, you can see that it is a continuous update instead of just one block at a time. And I'm much happier with that fast time you see down there at the bottom. This fix to the time system allows me to have a lot more control over how time works and how I simulate things. On the events though, I can't remember if you had this last week where I fixed the description area so that the full description is now present and we can have really long descriptions if we want, and that'll be good. Over on the left side of this response, I added the population awareness factor and the expected impact to normalcy should this go badly. Having a few details in there like this will allow the player to judge a little bit better what the effects are going to be of their decisions. I also, up here you can see that on these drop downs, now that whatever one you select, it'll show you which one you selected. So as I go down now, you can see the choices that I've made get put up to the top to show me which one that I actually picked out of the list. This I think is a much better presentation of the choices that you made so that you don't click take action blindly hoping that the choices you made were the same in your head. So that'll be good. Unfortunately, take action button, although a lot of research has been done for it and a lot of things are done in the back end because of these issues with the time management and base concepts, it's not finished yet, so I'll have to get to that another week. However, I did retouch up the ethics screen. You can see down here that I took out the assignment buttons, and that's because I'm going to have let's back up. The ethics committee, and really any kind of Eternals Affair committee in a company or an organization, has to be a separate unit, one that is not influenced by the organization that it's trying to judge. Obviously, there's different levels of how that's implemented, but in order to make this a little bit more effective, as far as a gameplay mechanic, I'm having that the game will recruit from your staff members to be on the ethics committee. And then you'll have to work with those members that the committee itself chose in order to influence them one way or the other. Up here at the top you can see I added a bar to measure committee approval. Also, I added in, when you click on the case here, this is an example of how I would see the presentation of what you get to see there for the case. The defendant, plaintiff, details on the case. The details will be made up sort of Mad Lib style by the game. There will be different case study summaries, and then the numbers and names will get filled in depending on who the case is against. At the bottom of the details section, it gives the committee's decision regarding the case. And at the bottom you have your options to approve their decision, reject it, or ignore the case entirely. And approving or rejecting allows you to help sway the committee's opinions of you, and also their opinions on what the Foundation's ethics are like. So the screen isn't completely done yet. Still trying to tweak it, still getting feedback. Be sure to give any feedback you have on those new things that I added. I'll be going back through and cleaning up all the screens as we go along. Also, I forgot to mention Dr. Reach, who gave me those two little icons on the tabs, also gave me some logos to use for these individual management tabs. So take a look at them. These aren't necessarily final, but I think they're pretty good as they are, so take a look and see what you think. On these, you'll notice that I have tooltips for them, so in case you either forget what the tab is or the icon isn't recognizable, by hovering over the button you'll get a tooltip to tell you what the button is. One other thing I want to cover this week is the mobile task force screen. At least this is the summary screen. So as you make different task forces, they'll get populated in this list as various entries that look like this. Over in the left top hand corner, you can see there is a logo you can apply to the task force. Below that are 3 colors that can be picked to be the task force's colors that will affect their uniform, insignia, things like that. Then next to the logos and colors you see 4 spaces for pictures. And these are tags that are assigned to this task force. So these 2 tags in particular, also provided by Dr. Reach, are self-replicating and mechanical. By assigning tags to these task forces, it makes it so that those task forces receive specialized training and instruction on those particular tags, and that makes them more effective in responding to and combating either groups of interest or events or SCPs that are related to those tags. You probably won't start off with the ability to assign tags. That'll probably be a research or a policy, and that's indicated here. You can see that below the top 2 tags there's an empty space with a plus sign. You'd be able to click on that and assign a new tag, but below that's one without a plus sign to represent that that is a future tag slot that you could unlock through more research and development. Then here on the task force I have the options to select the air and ground vehicles that your task force uses to respond to events. Like there will probably be an option for local police vehicles so that you can blend in. Next to the transport, you see there's an officer roster. Let's see, in XCOM, which is a lot of the inspiration of this game, you have individual soldiers that you send out and do various tasks with. In the SCP universe, I imagine that a lot of responses, if you're sending out a mobile task force to an area, there's a good chance you have more than just a handful of soldiers going there. So the way I envisioned organizing this is that you would have officers assigned to your task force that were each under control of a squad. Also, just as news for other people who aren't interested in the combat portion of the game, events will have the ability to auto-resolve combat. I'm also looking into doing more of a text-based combat approach for those that want to disable combat but want a little more interaction than auto-resolve, which essentially will auto-resolve most of the battle, but will basically give you back communications for you to make some of the big calls in the battle. Say a hostage situation develops, you'll be called back, notified, and be able to make a decision on whether to attack regardless of the hostages or not. Maybe the anomaly is evolving and they're not sure what to do. You can tell them to go forward or pull back to give a narrative fill to the combat and not reduce it to just auto-resolve numbers. But again, don't get too up in arms yet if you don't like some of these things, because it's a ways off to get the combat right and to develop most of the combat at all, so we've got a ways to go. So just throw your feedback at me and let me know so I can work on it, plan on it, and hopefully we can make a game that everyone loves. So that's it for this week. As far as next week, it's Thanksgiving week. I may or may not have a video. I don't know how much access I'll have to a computer, how much dev time I'll have. We'll see how it works. Hopefully I'll be able to have enough time to throw out a video, but I may be a little bit blocked on that, so it may be 2 weeks. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, send in your feedback, and I'll catch you next time.